What is the Dragonslayer Codex? What is unique about this book? What kind of world building is involved in it? Today, we cover that in this unique review and rank the dragons in this first volume written and illustrated by Sawyer Lee. Before we go any further, I would also like to note that the artwork used in this video, except where noted, belongs to Sawyer, and is used here for the purpose of showcasing his incredible work on the book. Hello everyone, this is Saberrex, and in this video we will be covering the characters, creatures, and plots of books and films such as the Primitive War franchise, the Inheritance Cycle, and so much more. So, welcome, one and all. Today, for this special video, we are going to be looking at and reviewing a recently published book as part of our investigation into fantasy and science fiction novels, guides, and stories. So without further ado, let's dive into the Dragonslayer Codex, Volume 1. The Dragonslayer Codex was first created as an idea by Sawyer Lee, its author and artist. Having followed Sawyer on Instagram, Facebook, and DeviantArt for years, I can attest to his skill and prowess as an artist. Given that he is only in his early 20s, I can say without doubt that his skill will continue to grow over the next few decades. Indeed, he began writing and illustrating this book while still in college, which just goes to show how incredible his skills are. I would also like to note his art style is very similar to that of Weta Workshop veteran and renowned artist John Howe, who has worked on concept art for The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and more. John Howe wrote his own book as well, called Forging Dragons, which you can also find copies of either online or at your local book and art stores. I even once stated as a compliment to Sawyer that I found his work reminiscent of Howe's, and he found it quite appreciative. Suffice to say, Sawyer has created something truly remarkable with this book. It is not simply another fantasy book involving dragons, but a sort of, what if dragons existed? How would they affect humanity and the creatures around them? Following years of work, Sawyer then launched an extremely successful Kickstarter campaign to fund the creation of the first volume of this book. By the time the 30 days for the campaign was finished, it had raised exactly $92,600, and as both a reviewer and customer of Sawyer's, I am proud to say that I was happy to contribute. That this book raised this much money in regards to funds for just Volume 1 is astonishing. It leaves me extremely excited for Volume 2 when it is released. I must also note that the book's creation thus far has been so successful that Sawyer Lee has even earned a place in a speculative evolution exhibit in a museum in Germany, specifically the Natural History Museum Nebel, which at the time of this video is still on exhibit until October 2025. To say that is an honor is an understatement. Sawyer has clearly made a lasting impact and will continue to do so throughout his life, one I look forward to seeing throughout the years to come. Moving on, the Dragonslayer Codex is presented as a field guide to hunting and dealing with the dragons and other wildlife that exist on this alternative Earth. Here, many things are different. Humans exist, but their ancestry is different. Instead of evolving from apes that descended from the trees, we learn that they evolved instead from large humanoid creatures known as giants, often referred to as first slayers. Here, there are also gigantic hollow mountains, where water and wind erosion have created perfect living spaces for both humanity and for dragons of various species. Likewise, we learn that the humans themselves are fewer in number than on our Earth. At most, there are, according to Sawyer, roughly about 100 million humans. and that number is declining because of the threat of dragons. The continents are different, as is the megafauna. There are no big cats, wolves, or hyenas. Their niches have all been taken by dragons. Bears and small dogs that gave rise to domesticated forms exist, but there are also creatures in the ecosystems of this world that are no longer extant in ours. That is to say, ground sloths, brontotheres, and large ungulates evolved to cope with the threat of dragons. Some animals have evolved from the most unusual ancestors in order to cope with dragons, such as the ichneumon, giant tenrecs that actually hunt and feed upon dragons, whether offspring or adults. The wild pigs that live here have become heavily armored in order to resist the flames of dragon fire. Huge browsers akin to giraffes descended from sheep exist here too. Even the domestic sheep are different, resembling nothing short of an antelope crossed with a giraffe in order to cram them into tight spaces as a means of protecting them against dragon attack. Ecosystems exist on this world that are not found in ours, including a giant everlasting sandstorm in the middle of the great desert known as the Dune Sea. The great grass and tar barrens are others. Forests are filled with trees covered in waxy bark to resist dragon fire. Swamps are filled with mud that is acidic enough to quickly decompose carrion and rust gear and metal far quicker than what we would consider normal. There are even dragons who can swim through this mud like a whale swims through the sea. The air is also denser, allowing larger creatures than are seen on our world to fly with little difficulty. If that isn't scary enough, some forests grow so quickly that you can become covered in vines and undergrowth just by standing still for too long. Everywhere, there is at least a few different species of dragon, often many more, that are evolved to hunt, graze, and forage in these unique ecosystems. Humanity itself has been heavily affected by the dragons, and most of their cities and civilizations are now located underground or are carved into the mountains of this world as a means of staving off the attacks of most dragons. Many of these civilizations are isolated or connected by underground tunnels to reduce the risk of dragon attack. Humans have a society more like ants in this world. Workers have accelerated healing, warriors have denser muscles, and monarchs such as kings grow massive and strong, reaching heights that most humans cannot under normal circumstances. The people farm fungus, grubs, and livestock meant to be crammed safely together in underground shelters to protect against dragons. Dragon slayers are a necessity in this society, especially those that have to deal with dragons that are regular man-eaters. Not only that, but the societies and cultures of these different groups of people are remarkably different depending on where you go, much like what is found today. In fact, many of the humans look so different from one another depending on the regions they live in that you might even mistake them for being multiple species of human. Some have faces that resemble those of a mandrill, such as the wing runners of the burning hills, and others still have thick hair, almost akin to fur, particularly in the colder regions of the Arctic, such as the hintermen of the north. There is also a sentient species of baboon descendants called cynocephalus, which are just as capable of higher thought and speech as any human, which we will cover in the release of Volume 2. Nonetheless, they are as varied and cultured as any human on our Earth. Some are friendly, some are secretive, and some may be quite dangerous or arrogant. Likewise, their technology is very different as well in many regards, for there are no computers, no phones, and no cars. Indeed, their technology is similar in many ways to that found in the 19th century. However, there are some differences, such as the fact that they have created scuba gear and diving suits, and they do have proficient use of firearms such as rifles and other guns. Because the people of this world have to deal with the threat of dragons, they are often heavily armed and wear strong armor to protect themselves from the threats of dragon attack. Their armor varies as much as their cultures, and so do the methods they use for hunting dangerous dragons. All in all, the humans of the world of the Dragonslayer Codex resemble popular depictions of dwarves in the most high fantasy genres in the way they live and some aspects of their cultures. Now, as for the dragons themselves, they are in many ways, if not most, unique. These dragons are tetrapods, meaning they are of the four-limbed variety. The winged species have front limbs that also serve as their wings, much as with bats and pterosaurs. This is similar to many dragons in more modern media, such as Game of Thrones, but it is also evolution-wise the most feasible type of flying dragon there is. Many might refer to these dragons as wyverns, but before we go any further, it must be noted that dragons are fantasy creatures. They are not confined by any physical rules or limitations except those that an author or an artist gives them. They are not rigid in their classification, nor are they in their abilities. They can fulfill any purpose. That is why I consider them to be one of mankind's greatest creations. For dragons can be whatever an artist or an author wants them to be, whether it is a god or a demon, a monster symbolizing elemental fury, or, in the case of Sawyer Lee, an animal, or more accurately, an entire family of animals. Now, going back to classification, the dragons in these books are quite accurately lizards. They evolved from a lizard ancestor, according to Sawyer Lee, and you can see that in this book. In fact, the people in this world have a very accurate understanding of paleontology and evolution, as it has helped them to understand the dragons they have to deal with on essentially a near-daily basis. Multiple families of dragons exist, and they are very diverse. Some follow the typical dragon appearance, or at least are close to it. Likewise, some are so strange as to almost defy classification. We will cover that throughout the ranking section of this video. For the ranking of the various dragons of the first volume of this book, we will be ranking them by tier. Each tier will have a letter grade, with S as the highest and most dangerous and E as the lowest and most benign dragons. There are other dragons we will rank as well, but we will wait on that until Volume 2 of the Dragonslayer Codex comes out. So, without further delay, let's rank the dragons of Volume 1, in which we will discuss the level of threat they pose to humans, what features make them unique, and some of their behavior. If you would like a more in-depth video regarding the behavior of at least some of these dragons, please check out the links down below to Sawyer's YouTube channel, where you can explore his videos regarding the behavior of some of the more unique dragons that he has chosen to focus on, as well as the giants or other monsters of the world he has created. He is continuing to upload content and create it as we speak, so I would highly recommend subscribing to his page as well. Anyways, let's begin. Let's start off with the lowest tier, the E tier. These dragons are generally not dangerous to humans unless provoked. Some can be domesticated, and one in particular may even be altruistic. Let's start with the Red Racer. This is the dragon that has been domesticated, well and truly. The Red Racer is an herbivore that feeds on the spicy plants known as burngrass, native to the burning hills. This dragon was already open to domestication because it lives in symbiosis with a species of monkey that will clean the dragon in exchange for rides to new feeding grounds. This has made it a perfect candidate to be domesticated by the Wingrunners, the human society that bonds with these dragons. The bond between them is now so strong that children are tested to see if they can bond with this dragon. For this reason, this dragon is solidly placed in the E tier. It's the perfect dragon to live with humans. Next we have the kelpmonger. This dragon is an herbivore that is mostly aquatic by nature. It lives in a stretch of ocean known as the Great Water Knots, a kelp forest that spans across an entire region of ocean between two continents. This dragon is covered in venomous spines, not unlike those of a lionfish, a result of inadvertently eating poisonous shellfish that live on the kelp it feeds on. The seafaring people known as the brine walkers have to contend with this dragon eating their kelp raft homes and use poison to repel them. The best way to kill one is to fight it while it is on shore, for these dragons have to return to land in order to sleep. However, they are much more aggressive during this time. Likewise, they are more easily tired out on land. Harpoons are the best weapon of choice against them. Because they are a relatively minor threat and are herbivorous, I rank them in the E tier, but they could also be considered close to D tier because of the threat they pose to the brine walker people. Next we have the shearwinter. Out of all the dragons on this list, this animal pretty much poses almost no threat to humans, as it prefers to avoid them and watch them from a distance. The shearwinter spits shards of frozen seawater as its breath weapon, and mainly prefers to hunt fish. However, in areas where they coexist, it will also feed on the southernmost population of red racers, which has led it into conflict with dragon riders from the Wingrunner civilization on occasion. Saving the best for last in the E tier, we have the crowned sun scourge. This dragon is an interesting case. According to Sawyer and the video he made on them, this dragon may have an altruistic streak, as it has been known to occasionally rescue people stuck in the desert close to the eternal sandstorm. It rarely attacks humans, but if you should face one down, it's a dragon that expects an honorable fight. No one knows what this dragon prefers to feed on as its main prey, because this dragon is able to fly through the deadly wall of wind and sand that make up the eternal sandstorm. People have tried to cross in mechanical submarines that can walk over land, but even these have proved futile thus far. All that is known is that the crowned sun scourge hunts something very large and dangerous enough to fight back and leave scars on this dragon within the vortex of sand. It never attacks settlements, because its habitat gives it all it requires. Now we move on to the D tier. These dragons are generally more aggressive or dangerous than the lower ranking E tier dragons we looked at previously. Some can be tamed and trained. Let's start off with the most unusual of the bunch, the sicklemouth. The sicklemouth is generally a fish eater. It will occasionally eat humans, but the males of the species, which grow an elongated lower jaw as sharp and as strong as any sword, see use in fight pits. In order to train a sicklemouth yourself, you have to defeat it in single combat. Only then will you earn its respect. For this reason, and the fact that the majority of their population live on an island where they rarely encounter any humans except those looking to capture males to train, it is ranked in the D tier. Next within the D tier we have the Veilrite. This dragon is largely innocuous, in part because it is an herbivore, but beware the smoke that it emits to defend itself, for it is laced with poison from the plants it eats. This is its main defense against predators, such as other dragons. People largely leave it alone, not in the least because they see this dragon as a spiritual creature and leave it offerings. For this reason, it is also considered a D-tier dragon. Next on our list is the thorny bristlegaze. Another herbivore, the thorny bristlegaze spends most of its time feeding on the plants it has grown to mimic in appearance, a species of giant grass known as red reed. This dragon is highly territorial, and people who encounter one are met with the dragon's sharp, thorny scales and the scalding steam it uses as its breath weapon. If left alone and given a wide berth, it is largely innocuous, much like the Veilrite. Its highly territorial nature is the only reason I do not place it in a lower-ranking tier. Last on our list of D-tier dragons is the Silvertongue. This dragon is unusual. It feeds mainly on the offspring of other dragons. It's also venomous and uses that venom, injected using its long tongue, to immobilize its preferred prey. This dragon is mainly a danger only to those humans who are wearing dragonhide armor, as it can mistake them for young dragons. The best way to fight one is to confuse it by mimicking its own calls with a dragon flute. This dragon is also very unusual in that it holds its hind legs off the ground to use like hands and walks entirely on its wings in what could be considered a permanent handstand. As a result, I've often amusedly taken to comparing this dragon to the character of Sebulba from Star Wars. As a result, due to its unique niche and the fact that it very rarely targets humans, I rank it here in the D tier. Our next tier of dragons is the C tier. More dangerous than the lower ranking tiers, these dragons are known for making trouble with travelers or questing slayers, but generally won't attack settlements. One species is even trainable. First up in the C tier is the Flying Headsman. A widespread dragon, this species is ranked in the C tier due to its habit of picking off stray travelers, but it generally avoids more heavily populated areas. This dragon spends most of its time in flight and even gives birth while on the wing. It is also adorned with a razor-sharp keel on its chest, which it uses to slice its prey to pieces by flying directly over them. The Flying Headsman also can generate electricity, which it can shoot from its keel, making it even more deadly. Next up on our list is the Resplendent Armor Shear. This dragon barely makes the C tier. It's rarely seen and spends most of its time out over the ocean and feeds predominantly on giant crabs. However, this same diet may lead it to mistaking a human on occasion for food. For this reason alone, it makes the list. Our third dragon within the C tier is the Wailing Bishop. This dragon specializes heavily in feeding on dune moles, which are a type of large, water-filled rodent found in its natural habitat. It feeds by skimming the sand, and these dragons live in colonies, where the largest and highest-ranking male sits at the top. These dragons feed mainly at night, or at least the higher-ranking individuals in their colonies do, while the lowest-ranking individuals are forced to hunt during the day, when it's hotter. They also make towers out of the molten glass that they spew as their breath weapon, referred to as cathedrals, after swallowing sand while out hunting. These cathedrals are essentially lairs within the great expanse of the Dune Sea, and they also serve as the dragon's nesting ground. Wailing bishops will attack humans, but it is mainly the lower-ranking individuals in any group that cause the most trouble for people. Legends also exist of a great warrior who once tamed a wailing bishop, but this is also likely a myth. Following closely, as number 4 in the C tier, is the Shrouded Summit Keeper. This dragon is generally left alone because of the remoteness of its habitat, living atop the highest mountains. In fact, this dragon is so rarely encountered because of the fact that it lives on the highest peaks that killing one is never thought about. It uses electrical attacks to hunt its preferred prey of birds and smaller relatives known as dragonels. When it comes to humans, it's more curious than anything and prefers to steal their items with which to decorate its lair. If they're not careful, the humans that it decides to steal from may end up getting taken themselves, but this is extremely rare. For this reason, it's solidly placed in the C tier. Another dragon of note within the C tier is the Emerald Bombardier. A fairly common dragon, the Emerald Bombardier in many ways resembles a plant in regards to its unique, scaly pelage. It's normally a very timid species, but at the first sign of injury, it will attack whatever injured prey comes into its line of sight. It's unique as a dragon in the fact that it surrounds its nests with chunks of hardened saliva which can explode like landmines. In this way, it can protect itself, its eggs, and obtain easy prey by simply letting it wander too close. The dragon is protected from these explosions by its honeycombed and hollow scales, which absorb the impact of these explosions. Its timid nature and the fact that it generally retreats from a fight is why I've ranked it within the C tier. Last and best of all in the C tier is the gaping Kilmneck. This dragon is one of the most common within its range, which is mainly wooded areas, such as the Blood Forest. It is a social, intelligent species that lives in groups. While it feeds mainly on fish, it's not above hunting other animals, including humans. However, it must be noted that when raised from an egg, these dragons can be trained and commanded like hunting dogs. Their fire blasts are among the most powerful of any dragons, rivaled in volume only by the largest predatory species, and they have special, dislocating jaws that allow them to create a wall of flame. They do not like being ridden, but they can be bonded with if worked with from an early age in their development. Beware, however. This dragon can easily turn on its handler, and according to Sawyer himself, an entire flock of these dragons did just that when they turned on their human companions. This is the only C-tier dragon that can be properly tamed or is capable of being trained within the Codex. Next we have the B tier. These are dragons that prove troublesome and often prove dangerous to travelers of all varieties. First up, we have the Tasseled Thundermaw. A dragon that is equivalent to an electric eel, it hunts by waiting in ambush underwater to stun them with 400 volts of electricity. The best way to kill one? Trap it on shore in nets and harpoon it. Because of the inherent danger this dragon presents due to its electrical power, it is solidly classified in the B tier. Next within the B tier, we have the Screaming Windlancer. This dragon is a dangerous nuisance. A frugivore, that is to say, a fruit eater, these wide-ranging dragons are highly territorial, particularly males, and spit black ink to deter predators. This same ink lubricates its skin, cutting wind resistance and making it the fastest terrestrial dragon. It is capable of running as fast as 100 miles an hour. They will also steal food and attack orchards. The best way to keep them away is to put spikes and tripwires up to slow them down. Slathering yourself in the ink of a male may also help tame females, turning them into your own personal guards for your farm. Third on our list of B-tier dragons is the Fumehorn. This dragon is an insectivore, recently discovered in the world of the book. Tactics for slaying it are few, but it feeds heavily on dog-sized ants known as wolf ants. This dragon is largely flightless. Additionally, it needs time to adjust after successfully charging at its prey. Due to the fact that people cannot colonize its island in part due to this dragon's presence and that of the ants, I am confident in ranking this dragon as part of the B tier. Last up in the B tier, we have the Painted Bloodletter. A desert dragon that can slash prey to pieces with its razor-sharp body, this dragon hunts the gorgelands, and is best driven off with chemical weapons such as those found in peppermint rifles and pistols. For this reason, I consider it a B-tier dragon, especially since it is in many ways the equivalent of a very persistent grizzly bear that needs to be driven away with pepper spray to get the message that humans are not on the menu. According to the book, there have been attempts to tame this dragon and train it, but so far only one individual has been successfully tamed. Next up, we have the A tier. These dragons are extremely dangerous. All dragons here are known man-eaters, and regularly see humans as prey. They are to be killed in battle at every available opportunity should they be encountered. First up in the A tier, we have the Scarlet Lasher. The most intelligent dragon, the Scarlet Lasher is cruel, sociopathic, and armed with a tail that can cut a horse or an armor-head pig in half. Males will find a tree, a rarity in their grassland habitat, and impale their prey on it to attract a mate. Both parents care for the eggs, laying them in a nest beneath the corpse tree, as it is called. Their shrieks can make a man go deaf or even mad at close range. Killing these dragons requires fighting from cover and to aim for the spot where the neck meets the chest. Because humans are in their preferred size range for prey, they have no qualms about feeding on them. They also are extremely susceptible to dragon call flutes, which can allow a slayer to get in close and kill them. Next up in the A tier, we have the Gut Butcher. This is the smallest dragon in the book and in the A tier. The Gut Butcher is deadly because it travels in packs, it fires acidic slime from 2 glands in its mouth, and it prefers to eat its prey alive from the inside out. Dragon slayers require smooth armor and quick reflexes to kill them. Any opening big enough for them to fit through has the potential to result in an infestation. Coming in third on our list of A-tier dragons, we have the Rattledread. This is the dragon that will eat anything, as well as anyone living inside the structures it chooses to devour. This dragon requires a slayer to be agile and quick on their feet, and to use the environment to their advantage in order to gain the upper hand against one, or more than one as the case often is. For this reason, it is solidly placed in the A tier. It prefers woodland habitats, but can adapt to any environment it wants to, and is hard to kill because it is heavily armored and thus highly durable. To kill one takes agility and cunning, as its fire blasts are akin to a shotgun firing scattershot. Gumming up its mouth so that it overheats and goes into torpor is another excellent trick. Next we have the Blindsider. This dragon is a true man-eater. It is solidly placed in the A tier for this reason, and it uses its reflective wings and breath weapon to blind prey before attacking with tooth and claw. Killing one requires protective eyewear to filter out its light. It feeds heavily on monkeys, and so sees any primate of any sort, humans included, as food. Arguably the most nasty of the bunch behind the Gut Butcher on this list of A-tier dragons is the Hushmurmur. Arguably one of the deadliest of all dragons, the Hushmurmur is so feared that its true name is never spoken by locals who live in its territory, which comprise deep forests and silent groves. Generally physically weak, despite its large size, it uses paralyzing venom sprayed in gaseous form to immobilize its victims before dragging them back to its lair to eat at its leisure. Last but certainly not least, rounding out our list of A-tier dragons, we have the Hellbasker. A dragon found in the arid Gorgelands, it has the hottest fire of any dragon and can melt its way into an undercity with terrifying ease. The people in its range generally use chemical weapons to deter it. It has the most powerful flames of any dragon, intense enough to melt stone. It's also more of a glider than a flyer, and is best dealt with on open ground where it has no ability to climb. For this reason, the Hellbasker is classified solidly in the A tier. And last and most terrifying of all, we have the S tier. These dragons are the largest, the strongest, the most powerful, and the top of the food chain. Killing them is not recommended. As keystone species, they are too important to kill without good reason. Most S-tier dragons in Volume 1 are too large or powerful to kill, so driving them away or placating them is the best option. Starting off our list of S-tier dragons, we have the Great Kinsbane. Arguably one of the two most powerful dragons in the book, this S-tier dragon is too powerful to be killed by human weapons. It's even cannonball-proof due to its heavy armor, according to Sawyer Lee himself. This is also a dragon that you would want on your side rather than as your enemy, for it eats other dragons as its natural diet. This dragon is essentially the great balance keeper of the ecosystems it inhabits, killing off and eating other species of dragon when they become too numerous, and eradicating humans from an area if they kill off too many dragons. Such was the case for the city of Hence. As mentioned in Sawyer's video on the species, Hence was a city that built above ground under the protection of a great Kinsbane. However, the city took too much from the local environment as it grew too large, causing the dragon to turn upon the humans when its natural prey had become too scarce to sustain it. Therefore, the great Kinsbane is treated as a capricious guardian, whose needs are met first above society's. Second up on our list of S-tier dragons is the Hold Taker. This is the S-tier dragon that is associated with greed. It feeds on metal, regurgitating it as a breath weapon and to decorate its lair. Killing one is difficult at best and nearly impossible at the worst. It prefers to feed on larger prey, but will eat humans encased in metal armor because it will see them as worth collecting simply for the metal they are wearing. This dragon is made even more dangerous by the fact that juveniles will seek out other dragons of different species to learn from in a process known as squiring. As a result, the dragons that a young hold taker successfully adopts as its foster parents will bring it food when it matures, and their descendants will form a symbiotic relationship with it, resulting in a hold taker gaining a small army of its own when it attacks settlements. The advent of a hold taker will bring many other dragons crashing down on a settlement when it breaks them open. I would also like to note that this dragon is my particular favorite out of all of them in Volume 1. So much so that I even made my own illustration of it, which you can see here in the next clip. I likewise will be making my own illustrations of other dragons from these books, including some that are coming in Volume 2. Third on our list of S-tier dragons is the Hullbreaker. The king of the frozen north, this dragon is arguably one of the most powerful there is, capable of punching through icebergs, glaciers, and thick pack ice. It's also so heavy that it no longer uses its wings to fly, instead using them to swim much in the same manner as a polar bear can swim in our world, even though it's a creature mainly built to live on land. It's also interesting to know that this dragon nurtures its young by protecting them inside pouches under its armpits, much in the same way an emperor penguin protects its egg under a flap of skin while perching the egg on its feet. Even a great kinsbane knows better than to mess with the hullbreaker, and Sawyer himself has shown in artwork that the consequences of messing with a hullbreaker can be fatal for a great kinsbane. The hullbreaker is very difficult to kill by physical attacks, and because it is a keystone species, the ramifications of killing one are severe for the other wildlife that the people known as the hintermen require to survive. Because of this, the hintermen have chosen to use sound as a means of deterring its attacks. Their operas and drum beats are enough to make this dragon's ears bleed when amplified. Only a glacier giant fares evenly against a hullbreaker in a physical fight. Last on our list is the Black Marooner. This dragon lives in the oceans. As an S-tier dragon, it's too powerful for people to kill. The best piece of advice would be to never engage this dragon under any circumstances. This oceanic species, which can dive to great depths, is too powerful, too large, and too cunning, following ships leisurely and then attacking when seas become rough. Anyone who tries to fight this dragon faces a watery grave in its belly. This dragon can also superheat its teeth in order to take down the gigantic fish that it feeds upon, making it even more dangerous, for it can use those searing hot jaws to also burn through the hull of a ship if it wants to. And so at last we come to the end of our list. In showcasing all of these different dragons, I hope you have gotten an idea why I have ranked them the way I did, as well as gaining an understanding of why I think these dragons are some of the most impressive and well designed thus far for any fantasy books or series, simply in regards to diversity and creativity. Let me know which of these dragons was also your favorite. I would enjoy hearing what you have to say in the comments. If you also enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment as suggested, and consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. I do enjoy sharing my analyses with viewers like you, and every bit of appreciation for my reviews helps this channel grow and reach more viewers in the hope that it might get them interested in subjects like this. As always, I would like to end this video saying that I'm thankful for everyone who decides they want to tune in. It's always appreciated. Thank you for watching.